Imagine a millionaire who has everything: wealth, power, and status. But deep down, he's a man shattered by the pain of an irreplaceable loss, the death of his daughter in a tragic Christmas fire. Years have passed, but the pain lingers, and he lives in a cold, empty world, with no hope that anything or anyone could heal him. Until, on the eve of yet another Christmas, he finds himself alone, kneeling before his daughter's grave, shedding tears and mourning the life he's lost. What he doesn't know is that his daughter is very much alive, watching everything from the shadows, filled with fear and rage, ready to reveal a secret that will change everything. What he doesn't imagine is that this Christmas will be different from all the others. A secret of betrayal, manipulation, and lost love will be exposed, and he'll have to confront the truth in a way he never expected. Fate has a peculiar way of working, and the pieces are about to fall into place in a way that will leave everyone stunned. Will a father's love be strong enough to face the betrayals of the past? And will this revelation bring the healing he's desperately seeking, or just more pain? Stay with us until the end to find out what happens when secrets from the past come to light, and the unexpected changes the course of everyone's destiny. You won't want to miss what happens next. Alexander Bennett sat at his desk, staring out the window. Snow was gently falling over Aspen, blanketing everything in white. Christmas lights twinkled on the trees in his yard, but inside his house, everything was silent. He hated Christmas. 4 years since the death of his wife, he had avoided any celebration. When the letter arrived, he read it with indifference. A charity event. As always, he wasn't interested, but something compelled him to respond. What could be emptier than spending Christmas alone in his mansion? He accepted, even though he knew nothing would change. Emily Harper stood by the window of her Manhattan apartment, watching the bustle of the streets, but seeing nothing. Her life in recent months had seemed like a blur. Running away from her ex-boyfriend was just the beginning. Now she was looking for a fresh start and had accepted the invitation from a charity organization that helped young people like her. She would spend Christmas at Alexander Bennett's mansion in Aspen. Of all the places she could go, she felt most vulnerable here. But she needed to start somewhere. When she arrived at Bennett's mansion, the grandeur of the place took her by surprise. It was luxurious but cold. The kind of house that seemed to lack a soul, with only imposing walls and a touch of sadness in the air. As she was greeted by the butler, Emily tried not to show her discomfort. She didn't feel at ease in large houses, especially when they were full of strangers. But she knew this was her only chance to begin anew. As she entered, Alexander watched her from afar, his cold eyes revealing no empathy. "Welcome," he said, his voice emotionless. Emily nodded, trying to hide her nerves, but she felt his gaze studying her like a stranger. Unsure of what to expect, she followed the butler to her quarters. The loneliness of the house seemed to intensify as she walked through the empty hallways, the sound of her footsteps echoing. On the night of her arrival, Emily was invited to a simple dinner. She tried to maintain her composure, though the atmosphere still made her uncomfortable. Alexander was seated at the head of the table, his gaze distant, almost as if he were in a completely different world. He didn't seem concerned that she was a guest, and his behavior suggested that the company of strangers was of no interest to him. Silence reigned at the table, until Emily, with her curious nature, could no longer stand it. "So, Mr. Bennett," she began, trying to break the ice, "what is Christmas like for you?" She didn't expect him to respond with excitement, but perhaps with some polite conversation. However, he looked at her briefly, then sighed deeply and spoke. "I don't know how Christmas became so empty for me," he said, his voice heavy with sadness. "I lost the spirit of the holiday when my wife passed away. Since then, Christmas has just been another date on the calendar." Emily didn't know what to say. She had been through a lot herself, but nothing that could compare to the pain of losing someone so close. There was something in Alexander's gaze, a pain so deep that she knew he was far from healing. She hesitated but decided to offer a bit of empathy. I've also lost something important to me, she said softly, her voice trembling. Alexander looked at her with an expression that almost seemed curious, but he didn't ask anything. He simply stared at the empty plate in front of him, as if trapped by memories that consumed him. The dinner continued in silence, but Emily couldn't help but feel disconnected from everything and everyone around her. The grand feast was there, but the true food for the soul seemed to be missing. The next morning, Aspen was covered in a thick layer of snow, turning the town into a nearly magical scene. Alexander walked through the house, as he always did, with a distant expression. The warmth of the fire in the large fireplaces couldn't melt the coldness that surrounded him. He gazed out the library window, his eyes fixed on the snowy horizon, not really seeing what was in front of him. Emily, on the other hand, was eager to explore the town and take the opportunity to distract herself for a while. But as she walked through the hallways, she found Alexander again, sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at a faded photograph of his wife. She hesitated, but felt that she needed to do something. Can I sit?" she asked timidly, her voice soft. Alexander looked at her, surprised by the question, but made a gesture with his hand, inviting her to come closer. He said nothing, but his expression of pain was clear. Now seated in front of him, Emily searched for words to break the silence but wasn't sure how. She felt that this man carried such a heavy, silent burden, and couldn't help but think that perhaps her own past had something in common with his. "I lost someone very important to me too," Emily finally said, her eyes downcast, the words coming out hesitantly. "It wasn't a death, but it was still a loss. And for a while, I just didn't know what to do with it." In silence, Alexander looked at the cup of coffee in front of him. He seemed to absorb her words, but didn't know how to respond. The emptiness she felt, in some way, mirrored the emptiness he carried, not knowing how to deal with his grief. "Losses," he said with a dark expression, "they change us. But the question is, Emily, how do we move forward after them?" The silence that followed was heavy. They were connected in a way neither of them expected, but neither knew how to take the next step. The pain of the past was a wall that seemed insurmountable. In the following days, Christmas approached, and Alexander Bennett's mansion prepared for the grand charity event. Emily, even as a guest, found herself involved in organizing the event. She wanted to do something that would connect her with the people around her, and perhaps, help her heal as well. Alexander, on the other hand, was reluctant. He had always avoided large gatherings and any type of social event. But somehow, he was persuaded to let Emily take the lead in organizing the party. She had a vision and an energy that he couldn't ignore, even though he tried. As they worked side by side, Emily couldn't help but notice a subtle change in the way he treated her. There was a certain softness in his gestures, a slight gleam of interest that hadn't been there before. Every laugh she gave while suggesting something silly for the event seemed to make him relax just a little more. It was a change almost imperceptible, yet significant. However, despite this, there was still something about Alexander that he wasn't willing to share. He avoided talking about his late wife and the pain that still haunted him. Emily, feeling increasingly connected to him, knew that he carried something much deeper than just the loss of someone dear. But like him, she also had her own secrets. The days passed, and both knew there was something that bound them, but neither was ready to confront it fully. During a quiet moment, Emily approached Alexander while he stared at the snow falling outside. "You don't have to do this alone," she said softly, looking at him with a sincerity he had never imagined finding. He didn't respond immediately, but for the first time, he seemed open to the idea of sharing more than just his silent pain. The snowstorm that hit Aspen that night caused all the plans for the charity event to be cancelled. Alexander's mansion, usually imposing and cold, now felt more welcoming with the warmth of the fireplace lighting up the faces of the few guests. The storm forced everyone to take refuge in different parts of the house, but a sense of loneliness still hung in the air. Emily was alone in the library, trying to distract herself with some old books. She knew the dynamics of the house were changing, but she still didn't know how to deal with her own feelings toward Alexander. His story touched her deeply, and though he was distant and closed off, she felt that he was slowly allowing himself to show more of his true nature. That's when Alexander entered the library. He seemed lost in thought, almost consumed by his own mind. He looked at Emily with an intensity that made her shiver. Without saying a word, he walked over and sat at the table where she was. "I know you have something more to say, Alexander," Emily spoke softly, not wanting to push but also not wanting to keep lying to herself about what was happening between them. "You carry a pain that doesn't go away. You don't need to hide it all the time." He looked at her for a long moment, unsure of what to say. It wasn't easy to admit that he was still stuck in a grief that never seemed to end. "I don't know how to get out of this," he said, his voice hoarse. "I spent so much time trying to ignore it, trying to move on, but every time Christmas comes around, it all comes back. The emptiness. The loneliness." Emily felt the truth in his words. She knew what it was like to carry something heavy, something that seemed like it would never leave. She knew what it was like to try to hide your own ghosts until they consumed you. "I know what you're going through," she replied softly. "But hiding it won't heal you. It won't heal me either." There was a sincerity in her tone, a shared vulnerability that neither of them had allowed to happen until now. They were beginning to understand that, perhaps, the secret to overcoming the pain was to face it together. Christmas Day finally arrived, and Alexander's mansion was filled with laughter, music, and decorations. Emily felt strangely at home in that environment, despite the initial tension. She had organized a small charity event, something simple, but with a lot of heart. Joy seemed to arise spontaneously among the people, as if somehow she had brought something good to that place. Alexander observed everything from a distance, his face unreadable. But his eyes were different. He seemed lighter. Emily didn't know if it was the Christmas atmosphere or if something deeper was happening between them. As the evening drew near, he sought her out. She saw him from afar, standing in the doorway, his eyes focused on her. He approached, but instead of saying anything, he just gave her a shy smile. Something that had never happened before. "This place feels a bit different, doesn't it?" he asked, his voice soft. "I never imagined Christmas could be like this again." Emily smiled, but her gaze was watchful. "Maybe it's just the beginning. Life has a funny way of showing us that, even after loss, there's always something we should be grateful for." The conversation between them flowed naturally, easier than any of their previous ones. It was as if they were both, in some way, leaving the weight of the past behind, at least for a moment. Later, in a quiet corner of the mansion, Alexander took her out to the balcony. The view was breathtaking, the white snow reflecting the colorful Christmas lights, creating a perfect, almost unreal scene. In silence he looked at Emily, and then finally he said, "I never thought I could open up, but you made me want to try. I don't know what the future holds for us, but for now, I just want to believe that maybe it's possible to find something good again." Emily looked at him, feeling a warmth in her chest. She didn't know how things would evolve, but in that moment, amidst the snow and Christmas lights, she knew something was beginning. Something that could be more than just healing, it could be love. As Christmas unfolded, the tensions of the past seemed to begin to fade. The charity event was an unexpected success, and Emily felt that perhaps she had found something valuable amid the emotional storm. But while everyone enjoyed themselves and laughter filled the mansion's halls, Alexander seemed more and more distant. His work, something he had always considered his sole priority, was facing a financial crisis. He knew that at any moment, a great loss could occur, one that would shake his entire life. Noticing the change in Alexander, Emily didn't know what to do. She wanted to be by his side, offer support, but he seemed to close himself off even more. Every time she tried to get closer, he pulled away, convinced he wasn't worthy of being helped. One afternoon, after a tense phone meeting, Alexander was in the library, trying to organize his thoughts. Emily found him there, surrounded by piles of papers and documents, clearly troubled. She approached, hesitantly, but with a firm heart. "Alexander, I know you're going through difficult times, but that doesn't mean you have to go through it alone," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I know what it's like to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you're not alone. Let me help." He looked at her, his tired eyes as if he were trying to decide whether to keep carrying his pain alone or accept what she was offering. But as he looked at her, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, the true feeling of not being alone. He sighed deeply, as if he had finally given in to the need for help. "I don't know how to deal with this, Emily," he said, vulnerability in his voice now undeniable. "I've never needed anyone. But somehow, you've made me believe that maybe I could need someone." Emily took a step forward, gently touching his hand. "You don't have to carry this alone. I'm here, and I'll be here for you, no matter what happens." The next morning, Alexander's financial crisis seemed to have reached a point of no return. He had done everything he could, but he still didn't know how to handle the situation without losing both his professional and personal life. Emily was there, trying to convince him that, regardless of what happened, he wouldn't lose everything, especially not the love that was beginning to blossom between them. As the snowstorm continued outside, Alexander and Emily had a deep conversation about the next steps. Emily, with her calm and determination, helped Alexander see that perhaps work wasn't everything in his life. Maybe it was time to rethink what really mattered. She encouraged him to reevaluate his priorities, to think about what would truly make him happy, without clinging so tightly to his fortune and control. He knew she was right, but the fear of losing everything paralyzed him. However, something in her sincerity, made him start questioning his own beliefs. She was willing to help him rebuild his life, not because she wanted anything in return, but because she believed in him. That touched the very core of his soul. I don't know how to thank you, Emily," he said, his voice now softer, more vulnerable. "You made me realize that there are things more important than wealth and work. Maybe I let my life be defined by those things, but maybe there's a better way." She smiled, confidence shining in her eyes. "You don't need to thank me, Alexander. What matters is what you decide to do now. And to be honest, I think you've already taken the first step." They sat in silence for a moment, words unnecessary. The connection between them was stronger than ever. It was as if the storm outside was just a representation of what had happened inside both of them, and now the sun was beginning to shine. Christmas passed, and Alexander's mansion, which had once been a place of sadness and solitude, now felt different. There was warmth in the air, a sense of renewal that seemed to come from within, as if the shadows of the past were finally dissipating. Emily had become more than a guest. She had become part of Alexander's life, and he knew he would never be the same again. After weeks of reflection, Alexander made an important decision. He would sell part of his fortune to help save the company, but he would not sacrifice his personal life. He would spend more time with the people who mattered, with Emily, with his friends, with the community. He had learned the most important lesson of all. True wealth wasn't in money, but in human connections and the ability to love. He found Emily the next morning, as she walked through the mansion's gardens, watching the snow slowly melt as spring approached. The sun illuminated her figure, and for the first time, Alexander realized that winter wasn't an eternal season. Just like the seasons, the difficulties he had faced would also pass. "Emily," he said, his voice firm but filled with emotion, "I've made a decision. I'm going to change things. I'm going to change my life. And I want you to be a part of it. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I'm ready to see where it can take us, together." She turned to him, surprised, but her immediate smile said everything she felt. "I'm ready too, Alexander. For everything." They slowly approached each other, and when their eyes met, they both knew they were finally ready to face the future, not with fear, but with the certainty that whatever came, they would face it together. As the snow melted and spring began to bloom, so too did their relationship. Love, like the seasons, had its own rhythm, but now they were ready to follow that rhythm, knowing that with patience and understanding, they could build a new beginning together. The pain of the past no longer held power over them. And so, with secrets revealed and hearts finally healed, what seemed like a lost Christmas turned into a story of redemption and love. Alexander found in the shadows of the past the strength to begin anew, and Emily by his side showed that even in the darkest of circumstances, love can bloom again. But what does the future hold for them? Well, my friends, that is a story that has only just begun, and fate has much more to offer. If you've been as moved as we have, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. Leave your comment below because we want to know what you think about this incredible twist. And of course, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming emotional stories. Don't miss the chance to follow more narratives full of surprises, drama, and so much more. We'll see you in the next video, where the unexpected always happens.